Everyone's a little silly and everyone's a little quirky, but real weird heads like me know about the weirdcore aesthetic. The weirdcore aesthetic, which is also referred to as oddcore and strangecore, is a surrealist aesthetic that features low quality or compressed images and photos that have been heavily edited to appear dreamlike, comedic, or dark and eerie. It first emerged in the late 90s and continued in popularity until the mid-2000s, where it began to taper off, while other aesthetics like vaporwave, goth, emo, alternative/indie, and Tumblr-core aesthetics took the spotlight and had their time to shine. But it wasn't until recently, the early to mid-2020s, that the aesthetic has started to make a comeback. Weirdcore has been culturally significant and has made an impact in online spaces like Tumblr, Twitter, and other early internet forums. It features elements of the general look and feel of images shared around in the early days of the internet. These include, but are not limited to, low quality or super compressed images with amateur editing, old school digital graphics, and lo-fi photography. As you can imagine, these elements make the photos often give off a sense of dread or a weird dreamlike feeling, and this is due to the lack of context for the actual photo. Images like these have little to no context and may convey some sense of unknown urgency and anxiety, but the aesthetic itself isn't exclusively based in horror. It's just one of the more popular presentations of weirdcore, and you can't talk about its presentations without talking about the art and the edits made and shared. For many people, art is a way to express yourself or convey some sort of emotion, memory, or state of mind. Weirdcore is no different. Earlier, I mentioned that a major characteristic of weirdcore image edits is the lack of context and the sense of dread or urgency. This may have been an evolution from the surrealism aesthetic, an aesthetic that first gained popularity in 1917 from visual artworks and writings that conveyed unnerving, illogical settings. Looking at weirdcore through this lens is fascinating, as you can see that the foundation itself hasn't changed, but more so evolved into something else. Weirdcore and surrealism both represent odd, unnerving visuals that convey a subconscious message, either representing some sort of stressful or traumatic memory and how it manifests itself to the artist. They also share the dreamlike aspect in their visuals. Surrealist artists would often use a technique known as automatism, which refers to creating art without conscious thought, accessing inspiration from the unconscious mind to use in their pieces. Here's a piece titled Untitled Chinese Ink Drawing, created by Henry Michaud in 1961 as an example. Weirdcore art isn't much different from this, as many pieces utilize liminal spaces, which already convey an unnerving environment that is also dreamlike, but where it differs from more traditional surrealist pieces is the use of text in the images, as well as elements like lens flares, softening the edges of the photo, adding noise, blurring certain areas, making certain areas appear more saturated. You get the idea. These elements may invoke ambiguous or personal interpretations in others. For example, with this image, some may immediately think of a tragic memory, like their parents going through a divorce, a passing in the family, or an injury. It all depends on your audience's personal relation to the art that you create. Weirdcore art is also very accessible for beginners. Since most of the pieces are absurd and abstract, it makes it easy for artists to create something unique to them, but still be able to be interpreted differently by those who view it. As such, many people who assign their own feelings and interpretations of the art feel more attached to it and are willing to share it and talk about it, inspiring others to express their own weirdcore interests. But while there are so many edits and blogs where these images are shared, it's difficult to find who exactly started propelling weirdcore into popularity in the first place. We can pinpoint who the creator of the surrealist art movement, Andre Breton, was, but we can't do the same for weirdcore. It was only recently discovered that the earliest weirdcore edit with a confirmed date was in 2016. But of course, weirdcore has been around for much longer than that, and much like surrealism, it exists in other forms too. You wouldn't think that there'd be weirdcore music, but there's a surprisingly large amount of music that has been created for popular games like Unikki, Earthbound, the Half-Life and Portal series, Petscop, and interestingly enough, Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere. This type of music is described as a genre of electronic music that utilizes experimental, ambient, and noise music to create surreal, abstract, and chaotic sounding environments. They can even feature distorted and heavily processed samples with glitchy beats and other weird sound designs to add more of an unnerving vibe to the tracks. This type of music is super versatile and has been used in a variety of games like the ones I mentioned, but also in other more obscure games like Cow Game and Childhood Memories. Some of the artists behind the genre are Pilot Red Sun, Aphex Twin, and Syriac. just to name a few. Pilot Red Sun is an animator and musician known for making absurd animations that lack in context, as well as their weirdcore music with tracks like Canals, and A-Train. Which are both on his album named Achievement. There's not much known about Pilot Red Sun, and they haven't had much online activity for the past 8 years or so it's not really known if they're still making music or animating new shorts. I'd like to hope that they are, even if it's just for personal enjoyment. Aphex Twin, also known as Richard David James, is a British musician, composer, and DJ, and is known for his idiosyncratic work in EDM subgenres like techno, ambient, and jungle. Aphex Music has been making music for quite some time. In fact, his discography goes back to 1991, where he released his debut EP titled Analog Bubble Bath under Mighty Force Records, and he's continued to make and release new music, even uploading tracks like Didgeridoo and Isoproflex. These tracks make me feel like I'm in a Ratchet & Clank boss fight or something. They're so cool and nostalgic. Syriac is another animator and musician who makes, well, weird animations and music. It wouldn't really be a video about weirdcore if the stuff I talked about wasn't weird, right? But Welcome to Kitty City is a great example of how absurd and weird weirdcore visuals and audio can get in the aesthetic, and how weirdcore manifests itself across different artists. For many, weirdcore encompasses the dreamlike confusion and mind state of childhood memories and stressful or traumatic events, while others see weirdcore as the absurd acid trip to dump their surreal thoughts and ideas into creations like this, the latter being more of my favorite manifestation of weirdcore. Seeing how much weirdcore has evolved and solidified itself as a very popular and recognizable aesthetic is exciting. A lot of people usually hate when things become popular or mainstream, but I think with weirdcore there will be a lot of new artists who might bring a new level of strange and absurd art, music, and games for the internet as a whole to enjoy. And much like Vaporwave, there are offshoots of the weirdcore aesthetic to explore. Some of the related aesthetics to weirdcore include, but are not limited to, bastardcore, dreamcore, kidcore, surrealism, and webcore. I chose these aesthetics in particular because these are the themes and motifs that I tend to associate weirdcore with immediately, and it seems like these are the same themes and motifs that a lot of other people associate with the aesthetic too. In the current old web and dreamlike or liminal space renaissance, there's internet concepts and topics like the backrooms that feature entire levels that are themed after popular weirdcore images, or are entire recreations of different weirdcore images combined into one space. Level 99, also called Anemoia of the Backrooms fandom wiki, is one of these levels. Another one of these levels is level 78, which is also known as Psychological Planet. Not to mention level 55 of the Backrooms fandom wiki, Mindless Hills, which, here you go. Weirdcore truly is so ingrained into pop culture that it's even made its way into the backrooms, which isn't a surprise since the foundation of the backrooms is the weird liminal spaces. But to see entire levels that are entirely based off of one weirdcore image edit is amazing, and I think it really helps to foster the connection between these internet concepts. I can't wait to see where the aesthetic goes from here, and hopefully it comes back in a big way. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. This was a little bit on the shorter side compared to the rest of my content, but I still had a lot of fun making it, and it was really cool to see where the influence of this strange and odd aesthetic came from. I uploaded this video in conjunction with the re-upload for Spooky Sublevels Level 0, so if you like Brugly style level explanations but for sublevels, be sure and check that out. And like I mentioned in that video, I will be starting work on my next theory video, so stick around for that as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.